General Hospital spoilers for Friday, June 19th predict if you were not looking closely at the way newcomer Joe Fitzpatrick shifted his weight and subtly avoided direct eye contact with Dante Falconeri during their conversation at the PCPD, you completely missed the real story that is about to blow this entire town wide open. Joe casually mentioned his suspicion that Jen Sidwell had an inside man helping him escape police custody. It sounded like a throwaway theory from a rookie trying to make a name for himself, but if you ask me, there was a hidden agenda dripping from every single syllable he uttered. The slight hesitation, the calculated glance toward the precinct doors, it was a masterclass in manipulation. Joe knows exactly who that inside man is, and he is testing Dante. He is dropping the breadcrumbs to see if Dante will follow the trail or if Dante will blindly protect the very monster who is destroying Port Charles from the inside out. Guys, we have to talk about the absolute vicious cycle of deception happening right under Dante's nose. Dante has been fiercely defending Nathan West, who we all know is actually the sinister Cassius face-on against Ada Justine Turner's complaints. Dante is putting his own badge, his own reputation, and his own legacy family name on the line for a man who funded Jen Sidwell's escape. Now, let us apply the domino effect here. If Dante continues to dig his heels in and protect Cassius, what happens when the truth inevitably comes out? The first domino falls on Dante's career. The PCPD will be disgraced, and Dante could face criminal charges for aiding and abetting, even if he did it unknowingly. But the second domino, that falls directly on Elizabeth Baldwin. Dante has been confiding in Elizabeth, sharing intimate moments, and trusting her with his vulnerabilities. If Dante goes down in a massive corruption scandal, Elizabeth will be dragged right into the mud with him. Will she lie to protect him? Will this unholy alliance with Cassius Phazon end up costing Elizabeth her nursing license and her freedom? And speaking of Dante's world crashing down, we cannot ignore the sheer terror unfolding in that remote, freezing cabin. The scene where Rocco Falconeri discovers Britt Westbourne unconscious on the floor is the stuff of absolute nightmares. I mean, my heart was in my throat watching this young boy, who has already been through so much trauma, staring down the possibility of losing someone else he cares about. Britt gave Rocco that tablet to check on their family, prioritizing his peace of mind over their own safety. But now, she is out cold, and Rocco is completely alone, hunted by dangerous pursuers. If you ask me, this is where the dominoes start falling in a rapid, terrifying sequence. Suppose Rocco uses that tablet to send an SOS. Who does he contact? If he contacts his father, Dante, he might accidentally expose their location to the very police department that is currently compromised by Cassius Phazon. Think about the manipulative scheme at play here. Cassius Phazon is at the station. If Cassius intercepts Rocco's desperate plea for help, he could send Sidwell's men directly to that cabin to finish the job. Rocco's innocent attempt to save Britt could be the very thing that seals their fate. Britt has been fighting so hard to protect him, but if she remains unconscious, Rocco will have to step up and make a life or death decision. Will he run into the freezing woods? Will he try to fight off armed mercenaries? The downfall of Britt Westbourne could be the catalyst that breaks Rocco's innocence forever, plunging him into a dark, traumatic spiral that mirrors the tragic history of the Spencer and Falconeri bloodlines. It is a vicious cycle of children paying for the sins and the dangerous lifestyles of the adults around them. Meanwhile, completely oblivious to the imminent danger his grandson is facing, Sonny Corinthos is sitting in his dimly lit office, pouring a drink and revealing a bold new strategy to Rick Lansing. Sonny seems almost unbothered that a lethal predator like Jen Sidwell is running loose. He is confident, he is commanding, but guys, look at Rick Lansing's face. Rick is uneasy. Rick is hesitant. And honestly, Rick has every right to be terrified. Sonny's arrogance right now is a massive red flag. We know that Sidwell is orchestrating a cunning and chaotic revenge trap, and he is specifically targeting his enemies, which includes Sonny, Laura Collins, and Lucas Jones. Let us look at the domino effect of Sonny's new plan. Sonny thinks he is setting a trap for Sidwell, but what if Sonny's plan is actually playing right into a manipulative scheme designed by Sidwell himself? Sidwell is always 3 steps ahead. If Sonny makes a bold move, he is going to leave his flank exposed. And who is standing right there in the crossfire? Rick Lansing. Rick might be the one who takes the bullet, literally or figuratively, for Sonny's hubris. But the destruction does not stop there. If Sonny's plan backfires, The fallout will hit Laura and Lucas with devastating force. Laura is already trying to make an offer to someone, trying to mitigate the disaster, but she is walking blindly into an unholy alliance. If Sonny's ego causes Sidwell's trap to snap shut, the entire Corinthos and Spencer legacy family structures will crumble. The blood will be on Sonny's hands, and I do not think his empire can survive another internal collapse. Let us take a moment to deeply analyze the precarious position of Mayor Laura Collins in all of this. The notes indicate that Laura is making an offer to someone potentially related to Jen Sidwell's wrath. We know Sidwell has a vendetta that includes Laura and her son, Lucas Jones. Laura is a fiercely protective mother and a legacy family matriarch who has faced down the worst villains in Port Charles history. But desperation breeds dangerous decisions. What if the person Laura is making an offer to is none other than her brother, Cyrus Renault, or perhaps the enigmatic Jack Brennan? Imagine the sheer scale of the domino effect if Laura forms an unholy alliance with the criminal underworld to protect her family from Sidwell. If she brings Cyrus into the fold, she is essentially inviting a wolf into the henhouse. Cyrus would absolutely use Laura's vulnerability to execute his own manipulative scheme, demanding power and influence in exchange for his protection. Laura's pristine reputation would be shattered, and the citizens of Port Charles would lose their ultimate moral compass. By trying to save Lucas from Sidwell's trap, Laura might inadvertently hand the keys of the city over to a completely different kind of monster, triggering a vicious cycle of corruption that could take decades to undo. And while all these physical threats are looming, there is a psychological warfare happening that is just as deadly. We have to talk about the absolute sick, twisted game Cassius Faison is playing with Nina Reeves. Cassius, wearing the face of the beloved Nathan West, is sitting there expressing concern to Nina about projecting his fatherhood issues onto little James. Are you kidding me? The level of manipulation here is staggering. Nina is looking at him with such empathy, such maternal love, completely unaware that she is comforting the very monster who funded Sidwell's escape and is likely connected to the disappearance of her own aunt, Liesel Obrecht. Let us trace the dominoes on this horrific, hidden agenda. Nina is already in a fragile state, desperately trying to get evidence against Drew with Willow's help. She is clinging to the memory of Nathan as a beacon of pure goodness. When the truth comes out, and guys, it will come out that this man is Cassius Faison, Nina's psychological break will be catastrophic. Imagine the betrayal. Imagine the realization that she poured her heart out to a demon wearing her brother's face. This revelation will not just hurt Nina, it will destroy her fragile relationship with Willow all over again. Willow is already panicking about Drew regaining his speech. If Nina spirals into a dark, vengeful state after the Cassius revelation, she might make a reckless move against Drew or Brennan, triggering a chain reaction that ends with Willow going to prison for the hit and run Brooklyn framed her for. One lie from Cassius could ultimately lead to the destruction of the entire Reeves and Corinthos family piece. And we cannot ignore the larger web that Nina Reeves is currently tangled in. While she is being emotionally manipulated by Cassius Faison, she is also actively visiting Jack Brennan alongside Willow Kane to urgently demand evidence against Drew. Nina is running on pure adrenaline and fear, desperate to secure leverage before Drew regains his ability to speak. But look at the hidden agenda here. Brennan is not a man who gives away favors for free. He is a master tactician who recently advised Valentine to contact the mysterious Z. If Nina and Willow make a deal with Brennan, they are signing a contract with the devil. The domino effect of this alliance is terrifying. Brennan will hold the ultimate leverage over Willow, a sitting congresswoman. He could use Willow's political power to further his own covert operations. If Willow refuses, Brennan simply leaks the truth about the hit and run and Jordan Ashford's accident. Nina thinks she is protecting her daughter, but her manipulative scheme to blackmail Drew is going to backfire spectacularly, wrapping a chain around Willow's neck and handing the leash directly to Jack Brennan. Finally, we have to look at the heartbreaking scene at the Quartermain boathouse between Charlotte Cassadine and Danny Morgan. Charlotte is completely shattered because her father, Valentine Cassadine, has turned himself in to the WSB to save Jocelyn Jacks. Valentine made the ultimate sacrifice, leaving his daughter vulnerable and alone. And who is there to comfort her? Danny Morgan. On the surface, it is a sweet, tender moment between two legacy family teenagers. But if you ask me, this is the beginning of a very dangerous, unholy alliance. Charlotte is a Cassadine, She has the darkness of Helena and Valentine running through her veins. Right now, she is sad, but how long before that sadness turns into raging anger? Valentine is in a WSB prison because of Carly and Jocelyn. If Charlotte realizes that her father threw his life away for the Spencers, she is going to want revenge. Danny is a Morgan, a Quartermain, and he has his own rebellious streak. If Danny aligns with Charlotte, comforting her and validating her anger, we could see these two teenagers launch a manipulative scheme against Jocelyn and Carly. The domino effect here is massive. Valentine's sacrifice, meant to save Jocelyn, could be the exact thing that turns his own daughter into Jocelyn's greatest nightmare. Charlotte could use Danny's inside access to the Quartermain and Spencer households to orchestrate a plot that brings Carly to her knees. A vicious cycle of Cassadine versus Spencer, reborn in the next generation. Let us circle back to Joe Fitzpatrick and this inside man theory, because I cannot shake the feeling that the writers are setting us up for a massive betrayal. We know Cassius is the one who funded Sidwell, but is Cassius acting alone? The PCPD has been a sieve for years. What if Joe Fitzpatrick himself is not as innocent as he seems? What if Joe is actually working for Brennan, or worse, for the mysterious Z? The hidden agenda of every single character in Port Charles right now is layered so thick you need a chainsaw to cut through it. If Joe is playing Dante, feeding him just enough truth to gain his trust, Dante is going to hand over the keys to the kingdom. Dante's already clashing with ADA, Justine Turner. If Justine gets wind of Dante's blind spots, she will not just fire him, she will prosecute him. And let us not forget the medical emergency happening with Britt. Britt is unconscious. We know her medical history is complicated. What if this is not just a bump on the head or exhaustion? What if the stress of being on the run has triggered a severe medical crisis? Rocco is a child. He cannot administer complex medical aid. If Britt dies in that cabin, the trauma will shatter Rocco. But it will also unleash the wrath of Liesel Obrecht whenever she escapes her own captivity. Liesel will burn Port Charles to the ground to avenge her daughter. She will target Sidwell, she will target Cassius, and she might even target Dante for failing to protect them. The ripple effect of Britt's collapse in that cabin will touch every single legacy family in town. And what about Rick Lansing? Rick is sitting there, listening to Sonny's bold strategy, feeling uneasy. But Rick is a survivor. He is a master of the manipulative scheme. If Rick feels that Sonny's plan is going to get them all killed by Sidwell, Rick is not just going to sit back and take it. What if Rick makes a preemptive strike? What if Rick secretly contacts Sidwell to make a deal, offering up Sonny on a silver platter to save his own skin and protect his daughter Molly? An unholy alliance between Rick and Sidwell would be the ultimate betrayal, but it is completely within Rick's character. If Rick flips on Sonny, Sonny's entire empire collapses overnight. Every single storyline right now is a powder keg waiting for a match. From Dante's blind loyalty to a fake brother, to Rocco's terrifying isolation in the woods, to Sonny's arrogant miscalculation, and Charlotte's brewing Cassadine vengeance. The dominoes are lined up perfectly, and the first one has already been tipped. The only question is, who will be the last one standing when the dust settles? And will Port Charles ever be the same again once the truth about Cassius Face-On and Jen Sidwell's trap is finally dragged into the light? I guess we will just have to wait and see, won't we?